we finally looked up and like, okay, this is a thing. Like, it's not a hobby anymore. Like, this is a legit business.
Hey everyone, it's Nicole B, the Chief Pretty Chick in charge at ShopPrettyPieces.com.
Hey, this is Rolando with Global Tech Worldwide.
Hey, this is Tanner Lederstein with Big Eye.
And you are listening to...
And you're watching...
And you're listening to
E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the E-Comm Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I am here with Melissa and Emily of Fish Fixe. Obviously, we've all seen them on Shark Tank, and so we'll probably dive into that a little bit, but I digress. Emily and Melissa, you guys ready for a good show?
We are. Thank you for having us.
I greatly appreciate the two of you being on the show. I'm very excited for this one because your business model is relatively different from many, and delivery services, and it's a whole different thing. So you know what? Let's pretend that no one's seen the episode, no one knows who you are, and why don't I give you two a second to kind of give us a little bit about your background, your business, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So we're a little over 4 years old now. Grew up in the seafood industry, spent my professional career there, and just had an opportunity to really introduce people to seafood. It's something that we hadn't done very well in our personal lives at home. So Emily and I just had this really fun experience in Mexico that kind of gave us this crazy idea to start the business. So that's kind of where it all started. Yeah. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, totally fine. So what is it about? So you started off in the seafood industry a while ago. What is it that kind of sparked the idea behind Fish Fixe?
Well, I think part of it was my own personal problem of being a busy working mom and not having all the access to all these seafood proteins, and they're amazing. And we're selling them to high-end restaurants and retail, all across Texas, but we weren't eating them at home because simply it wasn't convenient. And so figuring out a way to make it convenient, which was, portioning it and freezing it at, the peak of freshness, and having it in my freezer allowed me to put it in the fridge to thaw while I was at work, get home, it's ready to cook. Seafood is so simple to prepare and it's so quick and can be done in 10 to 15 minutes. So we kind of solved that problem and weren't really thinking that maybe even other people had this problem, or, that other people wanted this solution. And we always say, when you have something you love, you share it with people you love. So Emily and I are old teammates from college, and I just kind of shared it with her and her husband. And they had young kids and were busy working in sales at the time. And that's how she kind of got introduced to it. And that kind of evolved into the eventual solution of Fish Fixe.
Yeah. What was going to be, hey, when we get home from this amazing vacation from Mexico, I'm going to Venmo you each week and I'm going to pick up fish from you, evolved to 120 days later. What we're going to share it with the world. We're going to open a Shopify store and we're going to sell it to everybody.
Yeah.
So delivery can be complicated. Delivery of consumables can be complicated. And then delivery of frozen consumables is even more complicated. So what was trial and error with that? How did you eventually solve it? What was that process like? That
process was brutal. Honestly. We started the business. We skipped past all that, but it truly is amazing. We had this idea, drinking champagne on the last day of Mexico, about to go home to real life. And Emily is like, Melissa, this is a business. We can do this. I'm like, we can. And then, 90 days later, we have our store going. But I think that, where was I going with this?
We started it. They have a wholesale company. So we started it ourselves. So we firsthand saw how hard it was and everything that needed to go into the customer experience with the packaging. And we firsthand saw everything that had to do with, every shipment that went out, and on top of that, we're shipping it all from Texas. Well, we really were let's grow Texas. There's, 6 million people around here. Let's just focus on them. Well, when COVID hit, everyone around the world or around, the coast, from California to New York and Washington, they're like, we want it too. And so, I mean, shipping all of that from Texas, especially in the heat, like it was hard.
Yeah,
And
I know. The packaging. So back to your question. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. But we didn't have a packaging engineer. We're self-funded, like super low, like we weren't going to throw a bunch of money at this business. So we just started like experimenting. Like if you can imagine all the different things we tried to do, like we had bubble wrap, we had like all the different, we wanted it to be recyclable. 4.5 years ago, there weren't that many great options out there, especially that would go past 2-day ship. So we tried every different brand, anything Uline sold. I mean, we were like just trying to figure this out. And eventually it took us a while. We had to start with polystyrene, which we didn't love, but it would allow us to deliver our proteins in like pristine condition, right? It works very well. And that's why people used it. And we were shipping all across the US. So we were so fortunate through this, after the Shark Tank experience, we were able to get distribution in all across East, West, and Central Coast. So we got to move to recyclable packaging that we're super happy with. It performs very well. But that whole process is, how much dry ice do I use? What kind of labeling do I need? Like, how big is the inner dimensions? How much airspace can I have? Like, do I use blocks or pellets? I mean, there's a whole like range of things.
Yeah.
We would ship like, hey, who do you know in North Carolina? We're like, oh yeah, my brother lives there. Let's try a box. Hey, there's a box coming. Don't open it if it's been more than 3 days. Like, it's going to stink, And this whole process, and eventually we landed. It was one of those hard-earned lessons, I think.
But now we have a great 3PL partner, and it's allowed us to have a little bit more sophisticated packaging and really achieve our goal of being able to get to the customer within 1-2 days of it shipping, which, it's been great.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So you think, traditional e-commerce manufacturer makes all the stuff, sends it over to, sometimes goes directly to a 3PL. A 3PL will sometimes send it out to different, warehouses that they have. But in your case, it's fish, which I would imagine you might be sourcing from. Are you sourcing it from multiple locations, or are you currently just sourcing it out of one area?
Sourcing it from, multiple locations. And there's so many times in what we do right now that I think about, like, man, if it just wasn't perishable, like our 3PL accidentally sent, depleted the inventory in our central warehouse and took it all to the West Coast. Well, with a perishable item, we cannot hit anyone else with that. It only can cater to the West Coast, right? And so, the logistics and the operation side of having a perishable item, especially like a premium perishable item, it's a game.
Cumbersome.
Yeah. And, there's not a whole lot of sophisticated systems out there to really help you, right? It's a bunch of your brain and a spreadsheet. And we talk to all these people that we meet, we're like, well, how are you managing it? Like, a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier about COVID and how that picked up, and it obviously helped you guys go a little bit more across the entire country. Did it have any kind of negative effect on you at all? Because, it's supply chain issues and all these other issues, but you're sourcing fish. So, fish weren't really affected by it. So what was there anything there that kind of caused issue, or was COVID just awesome for you guys, minus the fact that everyone was sick?
Yeah. I would never look back and say that it was awesome. Obviously we had tremendous growth, but for us, it was a really neat experience, because before COVID, I think many people, especially buying seafood, thought, wow, that looks like a premium luxury item. If I have access to it, I can go get it if I want it. And then during COVID, we kind of became a part. People started cooking. They took on different hobbies that allow, I'm going to try to cook something new. And we got to be a part of this experience for people that, I don't know, we really got to be a part of this movement and experience that people were stepping out of their comfort zone. And then post COVID, they're sticking around because now they see how easy it is to sear scallop and cook for themselves and not rely on a restaurant or a grocery store if they can't get it. And
you know what I think about? So we did have some challenges. Obviously, the supply chain was like, hey, buy everything online. And so FedEx and UPS were super overloaded. I mean, and we saw delays, but the cool thing was people weren't pissed off.
Yeah.
They were just they were thanking us for like I get chills thinking about it because the customer emails, like we answer every single customer email ourselves up until like just recently.
3 weeks ago.
But it gave us such a pulse on our business. It's truly one of probably the most important things I think a young company entrepreneurs can do is to communicate with their customer at that level when they need something. They would email us and say, "Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. You know, we haven't left the house in 4 months and like we just had this gourmet meal." And so when we did have issues with like thawed shipments and just, you know, all the things that happen with the perishable products, there was so much grace. People were so kind. They were, they were complimentary, and it truly, it kind of is really cool for us because it was this growth phase that we like had COVID not had that happen, like with the Shark Tank experience. People didn't have quite as much grace there, right? We weren't like in the thick of a pandemic. But like, and we had this crazy growth and everyone had this expectation of us like performing a certain way, despite, you know, how hard that is for a small business to scale that fast. COVID, everyone was like super chill. You can just see them. They're like, I'm working from home. I'm going to cook some scallops tonight. Like they're awesome. And I look back fondly on the humanness of like that time, like as a small business. Just in knowing that we're a small part of like something that was like bringing them like happiness or just like getting them out of the rut. Yeah. You know, it was pretty cool. It was really cool.
It is interesting. You find a lot of like e-commerce sellers that just almost purposefully put people like in between them and their customer. And I never understood, like, how are you supposed to adjust? Because you can't pivot or you can't learn about how your product's doing if you're just sitting back and ignoring what all your customers are saying. And it's pretty cool that you guys are answering them. Although I do understand that eventually you had to get to a certain size where that's no longer scalable. How did you end up marketing everything? Like, obviously you had the Shark Tank experience, so that I'm sure helped, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But how did you end up marketing it and being able to stand out from, you know, any competition or anything like that?
I mean, it was like when, you know, there's like the perfect things happen. I don't even know what you call it, like the happy accident of whatever. So we had the beginning of 2020. We were like, we're going to go for it. We're going to align with, we never have gone after, we've never done digital paid ads. We just, that's really hard. Wow. I mean, seafood by mail is weird, right? Especially pre-COVID. No one wants that. Like maybe a new pair of leggings, not seafood. So we stayed away from that. So, but it's foundational. Like we always said, we don't like that. Like we don't like that. We're not going to run a business where we're just like spending money to like, let's catch someone's eye and get them to click. We're like not doing that. We took a very like slow. So we identified like, look, who would people listen to? And there's some really key like food bloggers and, you know, influencers on Instagram that, you know, might have just written a cookbook and gone back from a book tour. And they have a lot of seafood in there. And so we aligned with some of those. Well, Mel, like just on a whim, emailed one. I was like, hey, let's just see if she'll do a partnererip with us. So I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going after you're like, I've emailed her before. Like I didn't hear about it. So anyway, the day that, we're about to start to enter this partnership with her. And the day, it was March 17th, grocery stores in Texas shut down. She's in Dallas, we're in Houston. And she's a national influencer, but
you strategically we wanted Texas, right?
Yeah. But the day the grocery store shut down, she called us, and our partnership really wasn't supposed to kick off for like another month. She's like, I got to do it today or tomorrow. Like, let's do it. People need groceries. They need hope. Like, come on, I think we can do it. And we're like, okay, let's go. And so it really, it was cool because not only did she have a resource in this cookbook that she had that people had already purchased and that helped them, but it just like, again, with the hobby and it just brought like a cool voice to us, to our company. And it just kind of grew from there. So that was really like, I think, you know, and we have different people that we work with who are, you know, food bloggers and dietitians that like, they love our brand and it's organic relationships. And so that's what we did really in 2020 to get our name out there. And that was about probably all we could really handle at the time based on like our infrastructure and the par levels that we had been keeping. And, you know, the fact that we were, you know, like self-funded and just kind of like slowly organically growing it.
So it was a spike and we're like, oh God, like, so it was, it's like this and this and this. And so we got to that, but like Emily said, it's all organic. So these people tell other people. And when you reach a whole new audience, and then they start talking about it to their friends and family who they're talking to a ton more because of COVID, like people we're so much more connected through the pandemic. So it was really cool because we laugh when we started, we'd have an order come through. I was like, oh, someone just ordered. She's like, yeah, that's my aunt. I'd be like, oh yeah. And then like, eventually it's like all the levels of separation. We're like, who's that? Like, and we joke because now it's like, we can't keep up,
Yeah.
But it's funny to look back. We should look back more.
I don't know.
We should sit around and look back more.
I don't know.
That's interesting that you said that. I just had this conversation with someone the other day, is that you with entrepreneurs, you're constantly looking forward at goals you're trying to reach, and it gets exhausting. You never turn around and like celebrate the small wins or go, man, do you remember when we used to panic over this? And now like, look at us now, instead of constantly, but I digress.
It's so true. And we were like, we're gonna fridge, and we should just like take a break and like go sit out, and we don't. We're just like, I'm trying to feed them lunch. They're like, no, we're not hungry, we're not going to eat lunch. I'm like, come on guys.
Is that still the case? Are you still not spending on paid advertising at all? Wow. So it's solely an influencer approach, and I assume riding the high of Shark Tank when it re-airs.
I'm not opposed to it, but it will never be a pillar of like our customer acquisition, because we believe that we believe that if we're going to take a longer, slower approach, but it's going to have way more staying power. Like we believe in content and helping the customer. Like, great if they click on the ad, buy a box, and they get it, and they're like, well, now what do I do? Like, we're not helping. We got to help them post purchase, and like, so that's what we're really focusing on, is the content, the recipes, the videos, all the things that like they're like, I can do that. Oh, I see it. I get it. I can totally do that. And it's, oh, that recipe is exactly with what's in this bag. So I don't have to like do math from like a fillet at the grocery store. And then how does that break apart? Am I going to have enough sauce? All the questions that, get in the way from them being in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we might date at one point. What do you think about paid advertising?
So I was just going to say that. So I honestly think that it really comes down to the business in itself, right? Like, because the one thing that you guys did that I find that most businesses don't think about, especially when you're first starting out, is that if you're running paid ads, right? So let's say you do the standard ones, you do Facebook, Instagram, and Google, right? It's clearly an ad that's run by your profile. It's you saying, I'm awesome, come shop with me. Or it's you getting in front of the user on Google and being there when they're ready. And then they come to your site and they're kind of skeptical about reviews because, let's be honest, no one really knows that you can or can't delete, negative reviews. But when you use an influencer, it's like forcing social proof. Someone else is saying that you're awesome. So it's kind of like, I always explain it like if you're at a party, like if you walked up to someone and you're like, hey, I'm awesome, they'd be like, go, I don't want to talk to you, go away. But if someone came up to you several times and was like, hey, that guy over there's awesome, eventually they're going to want to come and speak to you. So the fact that you did that influencer approach makes a ton of sense, because in the beginning, you're really just tooting your own horn, I guess is the best way to put that.
It's so true. And like, we talked about like, we since we weren't having to answer to like VC or like someone else's money, like where's my return?
Or we didn't have any money.
So it was just like our proof of concept. Like literally, we finally looked up and like, okay, this is a thing. Like, it's not a hobby anymore. Like, this is a legit business. And like, it's been such a blessing looking back. And like, fortunately, like Emily had an amazing job that she was working full-time in. I had my wholesale business that I was working in. So it was kind of like this part-time thing that grew. And, as entrepreneurs, I know a lot of young, they're like, I'm just going to go all in and do this. And we always said, like, Emily always has a great quote about like, yes, but your family comes first, right? So like, make sure they're taken care of. And we can go all in with all of our extra time, like after our kids go to bed or before they wake up, but not sacrificing family time and like growing it organically it's taken us so much longer to get to this point.
Yeah, we were sacrificing our gym time.
Yeah.
And
like
now
our
we're finally going to the gym.
Our
No.
sanity.
But I really do think a lot of the decisions that we made, and I think it's a true blessing, is that we weren't funded. We didn't have any funding. We didn't really put money into it. And so we couldn't say, hey, don't you think, even we know customer service it's important for us to do, but obviously it wasn't the highest and best use of our time. If we had money, would we have hired someone to do that? Or, hey, let's just try out those Facebook ads and see what happens. But we decided, we would rather have someone that has people deeper in the funnel, authentic relationships. Again, seafood by mail essentially is what we were doing at the very beginning.
Before it was like even a thing, like
people weren't buying groceries.
Yeah.
And so it was like, have you heard of Omaha Sticks? That was like as relevant as we could get to people.
that.
And so it's like, I think that it was great for us because we had to make decisions. We were like, we have one chance if we have to do it the right way, and we don't have the money to try this. So what's the best scrappy way we can do it? And, we built these authentic relationships. And I think people truly believe these people, these influencers and everything, because it is an authentic relationship. I mean, we all see influencers that's like, oh, they obviously got paid to do that. And even when people say they got paid to do it, like you can still tell if it's...
You can always tell if they're lying.
And so that's like very true to our core of our values. Like, I mean, we build authentic relationships so that it's mutually beneficial for, everybody.
That's good.
Yeah.
But it's funny when we started, we're just going to send you a box. Like we had a whole strategy, right? It's cool because our product, like it's not a widget, like it's not a pop socket, right? Like not that there's anything wrong with that. They probably make more money than we do.
Probably.
Way better margins, I'm sure.
I'm sure they do.
They can use it for their family. So we started with like these awesome smaller influencers that were dietitians, and they were like our friends. And we would like, hey, we're going to send you a box, feed your family. And they would talk about it because it gave them content. They were cooking something different that they normally would never do. And so it was mutually beneficial. It was really cool. So
yeah, I imagine there's also some adventure behind it of, getting, delivery with something that maybe you haven't cooked with before. And so normally if you go to the store, you'd be like, I don't feel like looking up a recipe on that. But if you get it and it's in your house, it's a waste. So you go, let me see what I can make with this. And then all of a sudden you learn something else. And I can see how, seeding different influencers like that, especially the micro ones, would do fantastically.
Yeah. Do you cook seafood at home, Andrew?
I do.
You do? What do you like to cook?
Ooh, I do salmon a lot. Then I'm more of like a shellfish guy. I do a lot of shrimp and scallops and lobster every now and then and stuff like that. I've messed around with like flounder. I'm horrible at tilapia. I can't get it to taste like anything except just nothing really.
Yeah. Well, we have a box. We have to send you a box. It's fun. It's like
awesome.
It's like when you open your freezer, like, oh, it's like kind of exciting. It's like going to a new restaurant or something.
Even us,
crazy. Like, ooh. Last night we were
think too, like, I think special, like it's just the like you said, the adventure. So if you like, we're like, I found a great brand of seafood that's frozen because I know I have to eat frozen because I have family and I need something quick that's always there. Like, okay, I bought a case of salmon at Costco. Like Costco has great food, but now I'm committed to salmon for a long time. As opposed to like have scallops tonight, shrimp tomorrow, this weekend I'm going to get fancy and have, it's cool because it is kind of a cool adventure. And, like our scallops, everyone's like intimidated by cooking scallops because it's very much like something people reserve for like a restaurant experience.
Yeah.
But our scallops are really good. And so it's cool because like our whole mission is to help people eat more seafood. And we
are either of you pescatarian? Is that part of what started this, or are you just big fish fans?
Well, I've been in the industry. No, I think we've kind of morphed into that. Honestly, like we're always learning and growing. Like that's one of our things. Like we're always like forward thinking, open minded. Like we got to continue to learn and grow. And I think we can all agree that there's a major shift in like the pyramid. We talked about the USDA pyramid and the amount of like red meat that we should be eating. And we're conscious of that. And like, I rather eat like our cobia sashimi style with a spicy ponzu and ginger, then like,
not to mention that takes 4 minutes to make
chicken
as opposed to cooking something. So like the truth is she grew up in South Louisiana. So she grew up, like she knows more about seafood. She knows how to cook it and everything. I grew up in landlocked Dallas where that wasn't the case. And, it's like we're just two very different backgrounds of it. But for her, like it's in her blood. For me, it is the most convenient protein you can cook, especially if you have it on hand, right? It's less than 10 minutes and the reward is amazing. I live out of my freezer. Like I trust, the process of being frozen at the source, whether it's my fruit, not my fruit really, but my vegetables, my meat, all of it. And so it really is a convenient protein and then a very healthy protein. And so I would say that out of convenience, we're kind of
pescatarian. I mean, I'll eat a good steak any night. But
we're in Texas. We eat steak,
but chicken, no.
I was gonna say my wife is pescatarian. Every now and then she'll ask me like, "Oh, who do you have coming up on the show?" And when I told her you guys are gonna be on the show, she was like, "Let me." And we watch Shark Tank religiously. She's like, "It sounds familiar." And she looked up. She's like, "Oh yeah." And next thing I know, she's like, "Hey, we should get this. We should do this. We should do that." I'm like, "All right, well, I guess I'm gonna be your next."
And we'll get her a box. So we'll send it to her.
She'll love that.
But no, I just want to touch on this real quick because, when just talking about seafood consumption, I'll get nerdy for a minute, but like, what's really also really cool about what we do in introducing people to different species that they may not ever pick up at the grocery store is we are inadvertently, like we're taking pressure off of the species that are the most popular. When you look at shrimp, when you look at global consumption of seafood, and you've got salmon, shrimp, tilapia, right? Like things that people and those are the things that people are comfortable and that they see in the restaurants and like they're comfortable cooking at home, right? But if we can introduce them to some of these other species and all of a sudden we start spreading out, the purchasing, we're going to naturally relieve pressure in other areas. And I think, we have a God gave us like a giant ocean of fish. And it's important for us to like take reverence to that and know, and not just to, target and do the most popular thing. So it's cool because our customers like, I never know I don't even know what that is, but oh my God, I love it. And it's just, it's really cool to see that transition and mind shift and just keep opening them up to new things, which is one of the things we love to do, especially introducing the new products. Sorry, off topic, but nerdy.
To pivot just a little bit, because I know I've had a couple sellers ask me, like, you got to ask them this question. Because I get this question a lot. How did you know, and I guess what were the deciding factors that, okay, let's submit to be on Shark Tank and go down this route? Like, how did you decide, like, okay, let's do it?
You want the real answer?
You want the real?
Yes. Oh, I want the real one.
Let me tell you the real answer. Okay. So I am obsessed. Like I've always watched it. I've always dreamt of being on the show. Like always, way before, like I think since college and way before Fish Fixe became a thing. And since the beginning, people have been like, "Oh, you should go on." And I'm like, "We're not ready. I still work at a corporate job. They're going to make me quit my job. I'm not ready to do that. Our numbers aren't good enough. They're going to rip us over this." She's like, "I know, but like,
let's be really cautious in the relationship. Just if you hadn't picked up on it,
like, let's go." So, we go through the COVID thing. We actually have sales. We have all this numbers. Like we had 400% growth in 2020. And so behind my back in January of 2021, somebody submits an application online. Hey,
who's that?
After work, Emily, I'm going to need you to meet me here because we have a phone interview with Shark Tank. Like, why do we have a phone interview with Shark Tank, Mel? And anyway, and we just really went through the process. And I mean, who knows when you're really, truly going to be ready, right?
You're never ready.
Being, the one that is a little bit more cautious, aligned with the one that's like, go, 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 go. We made sure we were prepared. And, we're pretty realistic. So we went through all the check marks, like, okay, we watched all the shows, we studied, and but that's how we got there. And we just went through the process and we just kept going. And, it really is what people think it is of the experience. And And then we went in.
I was going to say, I want Emily quit her job.
Well, yeah, I guess that was her way of, it was a very long way
to do it.
Yeah.
So you got a deal. How's that been going?
It's been great. Lori and her entire team are an amazing resource. They're great partners. It's really cool to say a partner. That's Lori. But I mean, it really is. And, Shark Tank gave us, like we said, our organic growth was through, the influencer community on Instagram. Well, Shark Tank brought us a totally different demographic of people. And, to see, you see that big spike in November when we aired, and then to see their orders recur and come back is really rewarding, because it's to say like, hey, we weren't just for this one group, or it wasn't just the influencer that talked about us that got them. Like they truly do love the product. And it's been great. Yeah.
Do you see small-ish spikes every time it re-airs?
So this will be our first re-air on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, so this is going to be your first re-airing.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So we'll do a follow-up and find out.
Nervous with your past people, like what happened on their re-air?
So we've had the Comfy on the show. We've had Fun Cakes on the show. And there was someone who had the Comfy was, yes. I mean, they do, but honestly, like to be completely honest, that interview was nuts. They've done so much business that the owners I spoke with, they are so high level in terms of knowing when they're getting sales, and like at this point, they're like almost hands off with the business. At least that's the way that I portrayed it. So when I asked them, it was kind of like, yeah, I think we do. I think, but we do so much business that we don't even notice anymore. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then Fun Cakes, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there. She's she's still running. She's still doing it. In fact, her episode, actually, as of doing this episode today, her episode doesn't actually air until next week, I think. Okay. So hers hasn't even gone out yet.
Oh, nice.
But none of them really gave me like a solid answer. And I'm not getting one this time either.
Well, I think that for sure we'll have some sort of spike. I think it also has to do with like when it airs, some of our friends that we met when we were filming, theirs aired on Super Bowl Sunday. So it's like, unless it hit the DVR, which when I set my DVR, I don't always do like returning episodes. I just do first episodes. So who knows, but we're excited because it's an opportunity for us to talk about. And like, what's really cool when you have more of like a lifestyle brand and you are more of the influencer in the space is people get excited for you and they start sharing it and they start telling everybody. And so it's like, hey, that company I love, they're going to be on Shark Tank. Like, go watch it, And so that's the kind of stuff that gets us, really excited about that. It's like, just people being excited for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you two are busy. You have to get to lunch. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this episode with us. Great time. I would love to give the two of you a second to tell everyone a little bit more and how they can find out more about Fish Fixe.
So you can check us out at www.fishfixe.com. I would say probably the best place on social media to find us is Instagram. And that's fish.fixe. And, more YouTube videos are going to be coming out of this one.
Yeah.
In what we call the Fish Fixe Kitchen, giving you simple tricks and tips on how to cook seafood and some of her favorite recipes. So, yeah. And then you'll know soon because we're going to send you a box.
I know. So you have to eat.
I'm going to post it.
Okay.
I'm not an influencer though, but
that's okay.
Hey,
we would love.
Maybe there's someone I'll influence.
Influencing your lifestyle by sending you a box. How about that? And tell your friends.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Of course, everyone that tuned in, really appreciate you tuning in as well. Please make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, YouTube or at theecommshow.com. But per usual, thanks again. And we'll see you all out there. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of The Ecomm Show.